Despite the incessant commercialization of electronic music, my brother, Robbie Martin, also known as Fluorescent Grey, continues to push his musical limits while staying true to his art. His style loosely falls into the genre IDM, or intelligent dance music, and he's done everything from constructing songs out of fire and water sounds to combining Hertz frequencies to cancel out sounds. My brother's also pioneered an independent record label called Record Label Records and co-hosts a regular podcast with me on MediaRoots.org. It was an honor to have him join me on set to perform his latest song, We Kill Kids, on a basketball court.
Violence never brings permanent peace. It solves no social problem. It merely creates new and more complicated ones. After a firefight, they killed Osama bin Laden and took custody of his body. We've killed Osama bin Laden. 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 We've killed Muammar Gaddafi. We've killed thousands. 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 We've killed our friends and our allies. We've killed our friends and our allies. We've killed families. We've killed parents. We've killed parents. We've killed families. We've killed children. We've killed children. We've killed parents. We've killed parents. We've killed parents. We've killed parents. We've killed kids on the basketball court. 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 We've killed nearly 3,000. We've killed nearly 3,000. We've killed nearly 3,000 people on 9/11. We've killed nearly 3,000 people on 9/11. We've killed the airplane when it was over American soil. We've killed Martin Luther King Jr. We've killed Martin Luther King Jr. We've killed
Bobby Kennedy.
We've killed
President John F. Kennedy.
We've killed Satan. We've killed men, women, and children. 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 We've killed kids on the basketball court. 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 We've killed children. We've killed children. We've killed children. We've killed children.
What's up, Robbie? A nice Freemason jacket, man. Are you a Freemason?
No, I'm actually not, but I find them extremely worthy of mockery. So, yeah, you know.
You like to wear their emblems and stuff as a joke. But you use a lot of Masonic symbolism in your music, and your new album has a Masonic theme to it. Talk about the reference there.
Well, the new album is called The Masonic Assassination of William Morgan, and William Morgan was a guy who threatened to expose a bunch of Masonic secrets and oaths in his book, and the Masons tried to burn down the printing press. This was like back about a century after the American Revolution. They tried to burn down the printing press, and then when that didn't work, they got a judge to throw him in debtor's prison, a Masonic judge. And once he was in prison, under the watchful eye of the Masonic police who worked the jail, he was kidnapped out of the jail and assassinated.
This is really interesting, and you were telling me about this before, is that the American Revolution never would have happened the way it did if it actually weren't for the Masons. I don't think a lot of people realize how many founding fathers were Masons and how it was almost like a intimidating mafia-like organization back then.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, it was such an intimidating mafia-like organization that after the death of William Morgan, the first third party in the United States, besides the Democrats and the Republicans, was created. Basically, his death was the catalyst for like a huge amount of outrage. And nowadays the Masons try to paint it as, you know, Protestants and Christians who are mad at the Masons for thinking they were satanic and things like that. But in reality, I mean, they actually murdered someone who, you know, threatened to violate their oaths. And on top of that, you mentioned the American Revolution. The Boston Tea Party, you know, the infamous event that kickstarted the revolution, was sort of like a Masonic false flag event. It was planned in a private Masonic members-only club called the Green Dragon Tavern, and they actually, you know, thought up this plan to dress like Native Americans and sort of stage a populist uprising, you know, by going onto a boat and throwing tea off of it.
Wow. And just their control of the media, a lot of the things just wouldn't have happened the way it did if it weren't for the Masonic control.
Yeah, Benjamin Franklin owned several newspapers and actually spread propaganda about British soldiers, you know, to fan the flames during the Revolution.
And of course, we know the foundation of DC is one giant Masonic symbol. I mean, there's so many Masonic references.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's talk about electronic music, Robbie. Why do you think more electronic musicians aren't more politically inclined, don't have more of an ethos inside and outside of their music?
That's an extremely good question. It's becoming increasingly rare to find ethos really in any music, but it's really bad in electronic music. And when I say bad, I just mean that it's almost impossible to find any modern electronic music that has an ethos besides just pure escapism. And there isn't anything fundamentally wrong with escapism, but you know, sort of the roots of the electronic music that I do now, you know, revolves around rave culture. And even rave culture, as escapist and party-oriented as it was, sort of when it originally started, it had sort of the inherent built-in ethos of, you know, F the police, F the system, you know, F nightclubs. Mm-hmm. And eventually, just like anything, corporate money and big money took over electronic music in the sense that now a rave is, you know, a giant corporate-sponsored event in a giant stadium, or it's a nightclub that serves alcohol and closes at 2 a.m. you know, raves used to be all about ecstasy and psychedelics and basically bucking the system and, you know, saying like, we're just going to party all night long and not give a damn.
Yeah, and now, you know, it's become more corporatized, more commercialized like every other genre of music. And you actually run an independent record label called Record Label Records.
Yeah.
I mean, how hard has it been, how challenging has it been for you to run an indie label in such a world of corporatized, commodified music?
Well, it's been really challenging in the sense that my goals can't be, you know, sales because, you know, unless you're sort of riding a trend, and nowadays in 2014, musical trends are born and die within like 6 months time spans. So, you know, you can either ride these waves of trends, or you can just sort of just release the music that you love and that you want to get out there. And that's kind of, you know, that's been my focus.
You can't do it thinking that you're going to make money and have it be your sole source of income, because it's just not the way it works anymore if you want to really stay true to your artistic vision. Do you have any advice for artists who want to get their music out there, who are really passionate about music but don't want to go on a label and don't want to go that route?
Well, I mean, I think it's still a good route to, you know, send demos to labels if you're an indie musician and stuff like that. But you can't rely on it solely because there's so many avenues now on the internet to directly sell your music to people. You know, with websites like Bandcamp, I recommend any independent musician get on there. If you're still working on your demos and you don't know how good they are, go on music forums where you can get critiques and feedback on sort of your working, you know, song, you know, demos and stuff. But the problem I see now is that even like indie musical outlets, like things like Pitchfork or sort of the other big digital, you know, like online, like, you know, digital only music press, they sort of emulate this corporate model of payola sharing. And it's actually really hard to tell these days who is sort of following this payola model and who isn't. So I would suggest to musicians out there to actually seek out truly independent, you know, blogs, press, anything they can find. College radio is still a great way to get independent music out. You don't need to have a marketing package, you know, for them to play your music. So I think it's best to try to avoid and navigate around sort of the corporate culture that is sort of permeated into a lot of quote-unquote underground culture right now. Like even Red Bull owns an electronic music academy that is like taken seriously somehow. It's like it's an energy drink. I mean, what is going on?
Yeah, I mean, it's so fickle too. And you've actually played your music a lot on community-based radio, Pacifica, all across the country, which is another good route. You play a ton of shows in the Bay Area where you live. How can people find out more about you and your music, Robbie?
Well, I used to run a venue out in Oakland, but I don't currently. I'm still playing shows occasionally. Qedabatic.org is a group of friends of mine who do underground music collective out in Oakland. They throw a lot of shows. And also, if you want to check out my music, go to fluorescent-grey.bandcamp.com.
And recordlabelrecords.org. Thank you so much. Robbie, Fluorescent Grey, my brother. Awesome to have you on, man. Despite the incessant commercialization of electronic music, my brother, Robbie Martin, also known as Fluorescent Grey, continues to push his musical limits while staying true to his art. His style loosely falls into the genre to perform his latest song, We Kill Kids, on a basketball court.
Violence never brings permanent peace. It solves no social problem. It merely creates new and more complicated ones. After a firefight, they killed Osama bin Laden and took custody.
IDM, or intelligent dance music, and he's done everything from constructing songs out of fire and water sounds to combining Hertz frequencies to cancel out sounds. My brother's also pioneered an independent record label called Record Label Records and co-hosts a regular podcast with me on MediaRoots.org. It was an honor to have him join me on set.